All right, here we are back with another piece for watercolor, and I'm gonna flatten this because um, I don't know what I have in the image. Um, this is near Chimney Rock, and we're going to do another watercolor technique, and that is by taking edit and going to define pattern. And I know this seems strange, but what this does is save the pattern so that you can do the 3D pattern or the pattern brush. And so we're going to say okay, and then we're going to duplicate that layer, and then we're going to do the same thing that we've done in the past. We're going to go to filter, and we're going to go to stylize and glowing edges, and I've made it pretty smooth with a two edge. You see I've got an awful lot of stuff going on there. And image adjust and desaturate it, and image adjust and invert it. All right, so there's my pencil-y drawing on that. All right, I need to find a pretty piece of paper to put behind it. So I'll put a layer, and I'm going to my paint bucket, and I'm going to come over here under pattern and look for an interesting pattern. I think I'll go with gold parchment just because. And we'll pour the gold parchment there. That's really a nice tint behind it. And we'll pull that down, or that background up. And again, we're going to set that to multiply so the drawing becomes on the parchment. All right, so when we went to make pattern, we'll go with the pattern stamp tool here. It's like the clone stamp tool. But up here in this corner, where we've got the patterns and everything, if you click this little box here where the dog is, and I've played with the pattern there, and where I've made that new pattern, we're going to click on that. And that pattern will show up there within that. And now I can choose a brush type. So I have all these different media brushes here. I've got oil, medium, watercolor, medium, watercolor flat tip, watercolor textured surface. We'll try the watercolor textured surface. And basically I can start painting that in, and as long as I don't change the size or anything of the piece, it's going to paint what I've stamped within my image. Right now I have the opacity turned down to 43 and the flow to 71, so I can brighten it up a little. I don't need it to be quite as subdued as before. And now I can paint it with my brush. And if I am unhappy with the texture and the layers, every time that I go back over it, it's going to darken that image. So I've got a really light little watercolory type paint coming out of the brush. And the color just depends on what originally was there in the stamp that we made. So I can decide what to leave light and what to make heavy on my piece. I'll take just a little bit longer here so that you can see. And maybe it's not the watercolor type filters that you've done in the past. It depends on how much you decide to paint and where you want to paint and color it in. But I think it has a pretty good watercolor effect. again, then all those pencil lines. Now, when we did the soft pastels, we did the painting on another surface. So if you wanted to paint this on a new layer and then play with opacity, you feel free to do this. In this piece's case, I just went right on top of the outline drawing that I had there. So you could definitely leave edges unpainted, and the more that you rub with your paintbrush, the more details that are going to come in. So it's pretty much up to you on what you're going to paint and how much you want it to show. Then if I've gone a little bit too crazy with my brush, I can always repeat the step and put a new layer on top of it, and paint again, and then we could do some adjustment if you wanted to. So in my sky here, I'm coming across the sky. And you could just keep playing with it until you have the painting that you want. Have fun. I think I will change my brush bigger and just finish the sky and maybe call it quits. How about step backwards? And try one more time, bigger brush, lighter sky. Oopsie. Change your opacity. You can change your with it. You've added your color for each layer, and play with those too. All right. Have a good time with watercolor.